Hello friends, I'm Swati Nalwaya, Associate Professor in English, SPC Government College, Ajmer. In my last lecture, you must have heard the explanation of Sylvia Plath's poem Lady Lazarus. I had already explained in the three parts, 13 stanzas of the poem. Today I'll be talking about the remaining stanzas. In the last three lectures, I had talked about Sylvia Plath identifying herself with Lady Lazarus, who dies and is brought back to life by Jesus Christ. Also, that she had committed suicide 3 times in a total span of 30 years of her life. That is, as she says, she had managed one suicidal attempt every 10 years. I had also mentioned the features on her face, the way she stinks after every death. But as she says, she is the same old smiling woman again. There has been no changes in her even after she's reborn as she thinks Lady Lazarus is. Now, in the 14th stanza, as we read, the second time I meant to last it out and not come back at all. I rock shut as a seashell. They had to call and pick the worms off me like sticky pearls. Now, the second time in the earlier stanza, she mentions the second suicidal attempt that Sylvia Plath makes. And she says, as the first attempt was accidental, the second was intentional. She did it willingly out of her wish to die, with the wish not to return back. She wanted the second attempt to last and not come back at all. So she rocked shut herself as a seashell until she was called back by the people. The stanza reads, as a seashell, they had to call and pick the worms off me like sticky pearls. Now, even Sylvia, is unable to identify who picked the worms of her corpse. Now, the worm imagery over here that she has used is basically for mental illness that is depicted here. She does not even identify either how death occurred to her. Now, Sylvia basically, when she comes back after her suicidal attempt, the second time, which she had done by taking a large number of sleeping pills, and she locked herself up in a room, and she was discovered there after 3 days, alive though. Now, the image that has been used of picking the worms off is the same image like that of peeling off the mask and all. Now, this attempt which was there was like a disease, and she was to be cured of this disease. She was even admitted for treatment to take off the worms or to treat this ugly disease. Now, though her disease was psychological, but it was dealt with physically, they thought that there was something rotten inside her of which she needed to be cured. And these worms, they depict the mental illness for her. Now, in the next stanza, stanza 15, dying is an art like everything else. I do it exceptionally well. Now, dying, because she has already made the two attempts, she feels that this is a different sort of a technique or an art which she does it exceptionally well. Now, she feels that she has reached the perfection by escaping from her life. She also believes that by describing this dying to be like an art, she includes both her death and resurrections. What is difficult basically is the dramatic comeback that she has every time after a suicidal attempt, the return to the same place and even the body occurring as it does in broad daylight before a crowd's cry of a miracle. Now, she says that now she is in perfect control of her this art of dying. She is a master of it. She is exceptionally well at this art. Now, it is as if she had been deliberately making suicidal attempts to save her. So it is also a sort of self-mockery for her attempts which have been unsuccessful. But that also proves that she is very good at this art. Throughout this poem, we see that she has been treating herself as a dead person. Every attempt actually was a real death for her. Now in the next stanza number 16, which reads, I do it so it feels like hell. I do it so it feels real. I guess you could say I have a call. Now in the large part, if we say she kills herself to punish, or maybe even for driving her away from it, and she thinks because she has been attempting this suicide, it is very easy for her. She also says that she is specially and exceptionally skilled at performing the art, and there is an undercurrent of mockery throughout the poem which runs through. It here refers to dying. The dying experience for her or her attempts make her feel death to be something real, and one could say that she is quite perfect at this art. Now the next stanzas which read, it's easy enough to do it in a cell. It's easy enough to do it and stay put. It's the theatrical comeback in a broad daylight. To the same place, the same face, the same brute amused shout. A miracle that knocks me out. There is a charge for the eyeing of my scars. There is a charge for the hearing of my heart. It really goes. Now, as I had said earlier, mentioning that what is difficult basically, she does attempt it, and she feels it quite easy to attempt this in a cell, to do it and even stay put. But what is difficult is the dramatic comeback, the return to the same place and body occurring as it does in the broad daylight before a crowd's cry of a miracle. Now, it is here that Sylvia recalls the two attempts of dying. She says that she becomes something like a miracle after her survival. People get so curious, and every time there is a doctor to treat her. Her hair and her clothes, they become like a relic, a precious possession even for the people. But ironically, her things are not relic, but she says it merely out of curiosity. She says that her feeling of returning from death is dramatic, like a play where she returns back to the normal life. Now, though she looks the same, she has the same face, etc., but her existence itself becomes a kind of a miracle for her. That's all for now. The remaining stanzas of this poem I'll be explaining in my next lecture. Till then, goodbye and thank you, friends.